Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about our new class, Pure Paisa. Now, the old version was a double weekend blockbuster. It really was. It blockbusted everyone's minds. It was very successful, alhamdulillah, but people found it quite heavy and a lot more kind of, I guess, leaning towards the financial, the investment and the corporate kind of, and the theory type of class. So we took a lot of feedback and then we decided to relaunch it as a single weekend class where we just deal directly with the key issues that affect you. Now, you're going to be watching this and you're going to be thinking, actually, to be honest, I'm not really interested in money and finances and the economy and whatever. Well, let me tell you something. Then don't leave your house, don't buy anything, don't survive, don't get married, don't go to school, don't go to work, don't raise kids, don't have any kind of life then. Because it's impossible for you to live in this life without being involved in money and finances, however much the word sounds anathema to you. We have to understand the nature of our money, how it is to understand actually what it is, what's the reality of money, what it used to be and what it is today. Wealth, how is our understanding of wealth, what actually is considered to be wealth, and then when we spend it, what are the permissible manners that we can spend that wealth. There's so many different ways that we spend our money, and there are so many ways that we earn our money. This is a class where we're going to be looking at virtually every occupation, profession, job that there is, whether you are a pediatric nurse working in a very high kind of intense environment and you have to look at certain conditions of being there. So for example, they don't want your hands covered or your hair covered, for example. So we have one aspect of jobs which there is a problem in the actual work itself. So how do we continue with that job when it's against our Islamic principles? Then there are other jobs where the actual physical problem is not there, but what you're doing is a problem. So for example, working in a bank. Now you hear that often, it's not allowed to work in a bank because you're dealing with interest. Well, there are many positions in a bank. What about those that don't actually involve the interest? So for example, the cleaning of the bank, or for example, the making or the producing of software for those banks, or for the insurance industry, or for other financial industries like funds and fund management systems and whatever. What about, for example, as a pharmacist giving out the emergency contraception pill? What are the parameters that actually keep a job halal? Now that's very important for you as young people, because you're about to now take your final, many of you will be taking your final kind of choices for A-levels and making those decisions now, or A-levels in the UK and other further education qualifications in order to be able to achieve what you want at university. This might actually determine what it is that you want to move into, what area. To have a halal income is essential, and we will talk about the blessing and the Quranic aspect of blessing and rizq and so on, but we're also going to look at the practical realities. You see, money and our involvement starts when we're very young. Even when we have bank accounts, our parents, they used to have national saving accounts for us where they just put the money in and they would accrue interest. Now, what about if we want to now go and see that and there's absolutely huge sums of money in there? What are we allowed to do? What is the sum of money that we're allowed to have, and what needs to be done with the interest? Can it be kept? Can it be used for a mosque? Is it, as they say, use it in the toilets of the mosque in something very menial and despicable, or is it you have to give it away? When you give it away, can you expect reward, and so on and so forth? That's at the beginning of one's life that you're collecting. What about the other end of your life? What about those pensions that you might have, private pensions that you yourself choose, or those which are offered by the government or the state? What about the public pension when you receive it because of the tax and the national insurance that you've been paying all of your life? What about all of those investments that pension has gone through? What amount of investigation do you need to do? What's obligatory upon you? What is the nature of a permissible investment? Muslims are not just meant to stay away from the stock market and investments around the world. We're meant to be business people and trade and earn profit, and absolutely, why not? But what is the condition of actually investing in a company, buying Apple shares, Google shares, British Telecom shares, BlackBerry shares, if you're that crazy enough? Apple is a very interesting example. How do we break down a company in terms of what it actually it owns? Is it that it has an idea, or is it that it has a product? Well, Apple has a product, so that sounds pretty good. But what if it has lots of cash? Because we know that Apple is cash rich. So what about investing in that where there's a lot of cash in there? What about those companies? Is it allowed to invest in those companies that don't actually have a product and have an idea or a software or an idea which is used by people? Facebook is an interesting example, and we'll do a case study on that. Another new startups which are involved in the same kind of idea. Basically, getting some kind of theory and maybe even crowdfunding and using Kickstarter. What's the permissibility of that? You may think you're just putting permissibility in front of everything. I'm not. Actually, you're going to realize that some of the most mundane things might be impermissible or permissible depending upon the actual fiqh behind it. For example, when you go shopping, okay, if you're not happy so far about what you're hearing, you got to accept this. When you go shopping into a shop to buy your favorite shampoo or to buy cereal or whatever, if you see a competition being offered on one of the packs of a competitor, of a, I don't know, you got a Pantene and you have a, I don't know what, Vocine herbal essence, okay, and you go for the herbal essence because it says that there's £10,000 to be won by opening the lid, finding the lucky lid, or for example, McDonald's, you didn't want to go to get a filet or chips, but you decided to because they have that millionaires competition on where, if you flick that tab, you might find a car and this, that, whatever. So the only reason that you went was because of that. Maybe another time, the only reason you go is actually because of the filet. So there are different times, different situations. For example, Timmy Hortons, when you roll up the rim, okay, when you look to see if you've won on your coffee cup, to see whether you won something. So you only go in because of that. What's the permissibility of that? And it's not just about intention as well. What about for your masjid that you want to raise some funds? And so you got kids and you have a youth program, and so you want to arrange a five-a-side kickabout or a five-a-side kickabout in the form of a competition, and you want people to donate. You want teams to pay an entrance fee. Is that permissible to collect funds from competing teams? And what about the prize that's given? What's the conditions on the prize that's given? You may not be thinking about a house, but if you're going to be thinking of renting for the rest of your life, then prepare to throw away your money, and it's not going to be something which is 20 years later, when someone says to you it's dead money, then you have a response, don't you? You have, well, I'd rather pay dead money and protect myself. Or you might say, well, I wish that I had looked into the market and understood what was being offered. So when a bank offers a mortgage, are they all haram? Are all mortgages outside or outright haram? What if they offer you a fixed rate over a set amount of years and they won't mess about with that? It won't go up and down. Is the issue with the going up and down? What is the nature of interest? Riba. There's such a focus of that in our deen and in the Quran, so surely we should know about that. Now, you're thinking this is so difficult. It's not. And it's actually very, very important. It just needs someone to explain. And that's why I really, really feel that this is an important class. I said it last time, and I've made it even more easier and simpler so that you guys can come out again and learn about the very basics of your religion. To purchase a house is a dream for many, many people. Before that, they have to try and get through university. And now the fees and tuition fees, they look like they're here to stay in every country. And so some people need a student loan. Well, first of all, have you exhausted other means? Do you even know what the other means are and other sources are and other options are? We need to look at that, and we'll give some practical help in that. And then when it comes to a student loan, what's the nature of the student loan? What's an impermissible student loan and a permissible one? Are there any conditions that can be applied? Are there any ways and solutions that we can get around this? What about these Islamic banks that are offering Islamic bank accounts? Have you seen that they're offering loans as well? Islamic loans? What's the reality of that? How can you make sure that when you take money that it's either a qard or a dain? Did you know these two words are used in Arabic? The people who don't know, they refer to both of them as debt, but actually they're both very, very different. They have very, very different rules. And talking about debt, what about those cards which are based upon debt, like the credit card? People say, no, I'm never going to get into debt. I'll have it with conditions and I'll make sure that they take money from my account or whatever. Is it permissible to use a credit card? Because you don't really use it, except that your favorite hotel, you can only book it via credit card, or your car hire is only going to work with a credit card. Is that true? What about the prepaid card market? What about debit cards? Is it acceptable to use those cards with the fact that they have these conditions that talk about interest being paid? If, for example, you got overdrawn, what if you stopped the actual card being overdrawn? There are so many things you need to be aware of. And I said, and then houses. We used to have the great product by HSBC that was called Amana. And it was offering an ijara scheme and a murabaha scheme and a musharaka scheme, a diminishing musharaka scheme. What happened to Amana? What happened to that Islamic wing? It's gone. Why is that? Because we're pags. We took it out of business. We frauded them. That's what we did. Muslims, they jumped on and they saw a very quick opportunity to make a quick buck, and they scared the biggest bank away. HSBC isn't everybody's cup of tea at the moment. That's fine. The real issue, though, of course, is to understand what is an Islamic offering, what is permissible, what's not. Are there other startups as well that are offering community kind of projects to raise money to purchase houses? What about community? There's a nice pack concept, isn't it? The putting of money into this idea. People do it and people accept it because their folks do it and because everyone else in the community does it. Is that acceptable? What about other forms of collection of money? You know, the idea of insurance. What's the problem with car insurance? Is there a problem? Is it permissible? And house insurance and medical insurance and professional indemnity, are those permissible? What about warranties for your products, your phone that you buy it for, your computer that you buy it for, and other expensive products? What about car warranty? What about breakdown? All of these have separate realities and issues and rulings, and you need to understand. Wallahi, you need to understand the rulings behind them. You might not want to really, appreciate all of the fiqh and the details, okay, but you need to be able to act upon certainty when you're dealing with this. I could go on speaking literally right now for another half an hour just talking about the issues, but that's enough of that. That's what the class is for. So inshallah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys when it comes to your city. Single weekend, it's going to be very good, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me the tawfiq to be able to answer your questions, and that's what it's going to be. This is one of those classes we're just going to talk, we're going to chat. There's going to be little of the formalities and just allow you guys to put your situations forward, and then we start discussing so that we really understand the topic and understand what the perimeters are that has been set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's Pure Paisa coming soon. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sign up for Pure Paisa, the fiqh of earning and spending. Check out the website today at www.almaghrib.org.